listening to the podcast A Resonant Life, produced by The Time Is Now Productions. I am Mike Thompson, your host and Reflector-in-Chief. In this podcast, we will discuss experiences and insights from living a life devoted to uncovering the authentic self and finding fulfilling purpose from the past, the present, and the future. This podcast is a product of my life and experience, and I'll share my opinions. Opinions between people are various, and we don't all need to hold the same ones. But it is fun to hear the opinions of others as it gives us an opportunity to freshen up our own. If you enjoy and gain insight from listening, please subscribe and share. If you have questions, please email them. And as always, nothing you hear here is a proscription or a prescription. It is a discussion of life and life's internal and external experiences. So let's get to it. And welcome to episode 2. Now it's time to build momentum. So, first of all, I want to offer thanks. Thanks to those who listened to episode 1, especially to those of you who provided feedback, suggestions, and support. It's all been really welcome and insightful, and it's helped me to get some great ideas about how to do this going forward, especially as I learn how to handle the audio software. So also, let's grow the Resonant Life Circle. So please share the podcast with friends, family, and anyone you think who would enjoy it. The larger our Resonant Life Circle grows, the more positivity we can bring to our lives and the world. So the podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on iHeartRadio. And if there are other platforms we should add it to, please let me know. And finally, last bit of housekeeping. I am working on a website that'll have post listings of the previous episodes and things to come and information and contact, etc. But that's going to take some time because it's a lot of work and time is limited in this universe. So let's get to it. Today we're going to talk about irritation, impatience, irritation and impatience with people, with circumstances, with situations. So think about it for just a sec. Think about the last time you felt irritated. Can you recall what the physical sensations of that were? What physically did it feel like? In my recollection, I tend to tighten my jaw. I kind of lock my shoulders in, maybe clench my fists if I'm super irritated. There's a lot of physical tightening and bearing down we do when we're feeling irritated. And I don't know the exact biological reasons we do that, but I do know that it perpetuates the mind state, the mindset of being irritated. The breathing also becomes shallow and maybe a little more rapid. And all these things are the opposite of how we feel and how we react and what our bodies are like when we're calm and relaxed. So that's the physical stuff. And that physical stuff is the gateway to releasing irritation. It's also the clue. It's the thing that triggers in our minds, if we're looking for it, if we're conscious of it, if we're trying to be aware of it. It's the thing that helps us to know that we're feeling irritation, and therefore we can unirritate, sort of apply an antidote and become unirritated. Nobody wants to be irritated. Nobody wants to be annoyed. It's an unpleasant, uncomfortable state of mind and state of being and physical state. Nothing positive comes from the experience. There's no good outcome. Usually quarrels follow. And in our lives, we're trying to create a sense of levelness, of peace, a sense of calm. And in that sense of calm, that baseline calm, that's how we act for others first before ourselves, as we discussed in the previous episode. And that's how we actually do good in the world. That's how we create positivity around us, which is something I think we all want. So, irritation, the physical response. The first thing to do when you're irritated and your mind is kind of locked in that sense of irritation is to catch yourself in that physical state and take a big, deep breath. And with that deep breath, your body will naturally relax. And then you can follow that with another breath and another breath. And by the third or the fourth breath, your physical self is going to be much more relaxed. And that's going to relax your mind from the state of irritation that it is in as well. And once we can relax our body and get out of the state of irritation, in a sense, we're looking at it like looking at it from above or looking at it as a third party. And we can sort of see that the irritation is a response to a situation or another person where our expectations weren't met or were contradicted, or we were stymied or stopped or held back or slowed down or redirected. In a sense, the goal or the intention or the outcome that we were pursuing didn't go the way we wanted, didn't go the way we hoped. And our mind's response, our ego's response, is to become irritated. And that irritation potentially leads to fighting, pushing, asserting our own way, the way it should be, the way we want it to be. Well, that's a little tough, isn't it? Because that assertion of what we want, the way we want, we, me, I, that's a strong assertion of self. That's a strong assertion of I. That's a strong sense that I am right and I want it my way. That's sort of a, without being critical or mean, but that is sort of a 2-year-old response to any situation. And adults of every age, we all have these moments where we don't get our way and we get irritated or we get annoyed. I'm not sure what the difference is exactly, but we get into a negative physical and mind state. And the trick is to use the physical to help us back down and to relax, and then we can address the mind. And addressing the mind, we can say, okay, from that distance that we now have, we can say, okay, what is it that I wanted that is so important? That is more important than what somebody else wants or other people want, whether you're dealing with an individual or a group. Families are the best ways of looking at our irritations because we're with our families and friends all the time. And when we get irritated with them, really it's often about the small things in life, the little things. And these are not important, but they become important because our ego gets thwarted. And this ego thing, it's a cause of so many problems, yet it is kind of the core of who we are. And so what we want to do is we want to sort of tame our ego. We don't want it to be a sort of a feral wild animal that's chasing what it wants when it wants it. We want our ego to be the driving force within us for positivity, for goodness, for harmony amongst our closest people, our family and our friends, and radiating outwards, colleagues, neighbors, even strangers. Eventually, quote-unquote enemies, people we have strong disagreements with, people with whom we think we have nothing in common. We still want harmony with those people, because harmony really is the way that we create a world of peace. So, irritation. Let's say a colleague at work hasn't done something the way you wanted it to be done. And you've gone over this with them many times, how you want it to be done. And they consistently don't do it the way you want it to be done. So, you become irritated because you think it's an inferior product. You think it's not going to please the management, your bosses, like you want it to. Or it distracts from your own quality or sense of quality. In actuality, the person is probably doing it the best way they can, the best way they know how. Everybody is generally doing the best they can in every situation, given whatever limitations exist in their lives and their hearts and their minds and their circumstances. And so instead of becoming irritated with the person who hasn't done something, our colleague who hasn't done something the way we want it to be done, what happened, and then feeling irritated about it and getting upset and angry and annoyed and disappointed and frustrated, instead of going down that route, what if we just say, okay, there's a different way to do this that isn't necessarily my way, and it isn't necessarily better according to me, but there is another way. And this way is the way that's the product of us both, or the product of a group. And what's difficult or hard about putting essentially your ego stamp of approval upon that? If you don't, there's just a path of irritation. There's a path of dissatisfaction. But if you can bring your ego to just say, yeah, okay, this is good enough. And as a group, maybe they all think it's great. Then there's a whole new reality that's been shaped. And you have been the actor. You have been the chemist. You have been the sorcerer that has created a new reality where there's more harmony. Because you've taken your demands, your ego demands, out of the equation. What you want, what we want, what I want, isn't necessarily inherently better than what others want. This is the common ground that we all need to work towards to create harmony and peace in this world. This is another variation on last week's episode where we talked about trying to make the person across from you happier. This is sort of like one of those situations where if we're not focused on making the person across from us happier, then we're in situations where we're getting irritated or expectations aren't being met. So, irritation, annoyance. Breathe. Breathe again. Then step back and look at your mind, look at your heart. What is it that you're being blocked in? What is it that's the cause of the irritation? What's the expectation that is not being met? And in looking at these things, then you see your ego. You see that part of yourself that is selfish, essentially. Biologically, we are programmed to survive. We are programmed to perpetuate. And in that rubric, there is no compassion, there is no empathy, there's only drive. Survive, procreate. But we have personalities, we have selves, we have consciousness. And these are the things that give us the opportunity to be more than just drives pursuing needs. We are beautiful beings who can create wonder if we can step outside of the drives and their pull on our ego, on our sense of self. And if we can tease that stuff out, if we can disentangle it, then slowly we're sort of polishing away the primitiveness of our DNA and our DNA's effect on our minds. And polishing that away, what is underneath is the authentic self or the true self. And that authentic, true self is the you that is a peacemaker in all actions, in all words, in all thoughts. That's the you. That's the harmony maker with everything that you do. And in that, when we are able to do that for moments at least, then there's a happiness and a joy that just surges forth and fills our hearts and our minds. And that joy radiates out to others and touches them. In a sense, you're a candle with the flame lit, and you're lighting up everything around you, and you're lighting up everyone around you. And so, in a sense, getting irritated is a blessing, because irritation allows us to stop, step back, relax, breathe, and then take a look. And in that process of taking a look at the causes of the irritation, we see our ego. We see the thing that is a little primitive, that is a little demanding, that's like a little 2-year-old stamping its foot. And we're able to say, well, I'm actually not that 2-year-old. I'm actually something deeper and more wonderful. I'm a person who can create happiness and joy around me simply by looking deep and opening my heart and shedding the things that get in the way, the ego attachments, the things that the sense of wanting it my way. So this is just a different way of going through your day. And all of this is hard. It's not easy. And it's not something that we can sustain for hours and hours even minutes and minutes. It's the kind of thing, like I said, use that irritation when it comes. Don't feel bad. Use it. It's a tool. It's a gift. Use it to take the next steps to being a person who creates harmony around you, and you will discover that the harmony around you is this beautiful feedback loop that releases joy within your heart and shares that joy out with others. So I'm looking forward to the next time I feel irritated, because I am going to use that as an opportunity to really dig deep and uncover that source of harmony and joy, and I'm going to try and share that with everyone in my world. So thank you for listening, and thank you for sharing your time today, the 25 minutes that this podcast is. And I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope that you'll share it. If you're enjoying this podcast, I hope you'll share it with others in your life. Let's all create resonant lives, not only our own, but resonant lives with all those that we love and care about, and even all those that we don't. That's resonance. Sound radiating out, waves radiating out. Let's be the cause of that in our lives. Thank you so much.